بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه كما يحب ربنا ويرضاه أما بعد. In this lesson we're going to speak about the fourth nullifier, as the authors have mentioned. الرابع, the fourth nullifier, الحجامة. الحجامة, which is cupping. And we're going to find out, based on the author's definition, he is referring to wet cupping. Wet cupping where blood is being removed, not dry cupping, because there's two types of cupping: wet cupping and dry cupping. So what is hijama? وهي إخراج الدم من الجلد دون العروق. It is to remove blood, and it's dam fasid, bad blood, من الجلد, from the skin. So this blood is removed from under the skin, دون العروق, not from the veins. So this blood is coming, the bad blood is coming from under the skin and not from the veins. You're not cutting the veins. So it's light slices or slight cutting of the skin, and then you suck the blood out and you remove it from the skin. فَمَتَى احْتَجَمَ الصَّائِمُ فَقَدْ أَفْسَدَ صَوْمَهُ. So whenever the fasting person does hijama, then he has invalidated his fast. أَفْسَدَ صَوْمَهُ, he has invalidated his fast. What's the evidence? لقوله صلى الله عليه وسلم, due to his saying, أفطر الحاجم والمحجوم. أفطر الحاجم والمحجوم. The person cupping and the one being cupped have both invalidated their fast. They have broken their fast. Hajim is the one who is doing the cupping. Mahjum is the one that is having it done to him, the one being cupped. Both of them have broken their fast. And this hadith number 3 is reported by Abu Dawood, Ibn Khuzaymah, وصححه الألباني. Sheikh Albani, he graded it, its isnad, the chain of narration, as sahih. It is a commentary of Ibn Khuzaymah. Okay, so the hadith is authentic. The hadith is authentic. وكذا يفسد صوم الحاجم أيضا. So in the hadith it mentions that the hijama not only invalidates the fast of the one who has it done, it also invalidates the person who's doing the hijama. وكذا يفسد صوم الحاجم أيضا. It also invalidates the fast of the person who's doing the hijama. Why is that? Why is the person who's doing the hijama, why is his fast invalidated? Yes, we understand this person is taking blood out. Okay, his fast is invalidated. But why is the person who's doing it, why is his fast invalidated? The reason why his fast is invalidated is because previously, when they used to do hijama, they would suck the blood with a pipe that goes into their mouth. They would suck it with their mouth. So they would suck up the blood with their mouth. So this blood would sometimes be taken up into their mouth and go past their throat, and this would be the reason why their fast is invalidated. For this reason, the authors mention إِلَّا إِذَا حَجَمَهُ بِالْآلَاتِ مُنْفَصِلَةً, except if they perform the hijama, he does the hijama, he cups him with alat, or tools or equipments or devices, munfasila, which are separate, and not sucking it through their mouth. So the hand pump, for example, if he's using a hand pump to suck up the blood, then this does not invalidate the fasting of the one performing the hijama. So they're talking about the one performing the hijama. If it was using the old method, where he's sucking it with his the tube that is going through his mouth, sucking it with his mouth, yes, we can say his fast breaks if he sucks up the blood. But if they're using devices, hand pumps, and these kind of equipment, then they made an exception here, that their fast is not broken. وَلَمْ يَحْتَجْ إِلَى مَصِّ الدَّمِ, يعني إلا إذا حجمه بآلات منفصلة ولم يحتج إلى مص الدم. If they use devices which are unattached, and he's not required to suck up the blood, yeah, so he's not using the old method. فإنه والله أعلم لا يفطر. For indeed, and Allah knows best, he doesn't break his fast. He doesn't break his fast if he uses hand devices which does not require sucking up through the mouth. Okay, so hijamah, they're saying here that it breaks the fast based on this hadith, which is authentic. Both the fasting of the one who has it done and the one who's doing it. But the authors mention an exception. It only breaks the fasting of the one who does it if he's sucking up the blood with his mouth. But if he's using external devices which does not involve sucking up the blood with them through the mouth, then it doesn't break the fast. طيب. وفي معنى الحجامة إخراج الدم بالفصد وإخراجه من أجل التبرع به. طيب. And what falls under the meaning of hijamah is إخراج الدم بالفصد, removing blood through fasd. Fasd, the definition or translation is venesection or phlebotomy, which is to remove blood from the circulatory system through a cut or puncture for the purpose of analysis or blood donation or treatment of blood disorders. طيب. Al-fasd, you can check it up, is venesection or phlebotomy. طيب. And they've mentioned here what is al-fasd. Shaq al-irq is to cut the vein, to take blood out from the vein. So here hijamah is to take blood out from the skin and not cutting the vein. And fasd is to cut the vein, taking blood out of the veins, the actual blood from the circulatory system. And also وإخراجه من أجل التبرع به, and taking blood out for blood donation. التبرع is donation, blood donation. So these two both enter into the meaning of al-hijamah. They fall under the category of hijamah, meaning they also invalidate the fast. That's what they're saying. It also invalidates the fast. أما خروج الدم بالجرح أو قلع الضرس أو الرعاف فلا يضر. As for the blood coming out due to an injury or wound, or removing a tooth or a nosebleed, then this does not cause any harm. This has no effect. لأنه ليس بحجامة, because it's not hijamah. It's neither hijamah, nor does it fall وفي معناها, nor does it fall under the category of something which is like hijamah. These two are في معنى الحجامة. They are like hijamah. طيب, that's why they invalidate the fast. As for this blood that comes out from a wound, yani by itself, or taking out a tooth, or a nosebleed that's not within someone's control, this does not fall under hijamah, nor something which is like hijamah, nor is it like hijamah. So here they've mentioned hijamah being a nullifier of the fast, and things which are similar to hijamah being a nullifier of the fast. Now we're going to read the correction of Sheikh Abu Musa hafidhahulah ta'ala. Sheikh Abu Musa says, قوله الرابع. They're saying, fourthly, al-hijamah. He's going to comment on this. He says, قلت اختلف العلماء في الحجامة. The scholars are differed with regards to hijamah, whether it's a nullifier or not. والراجح أن الحجامة وما تفرع عنها لا تفطر. And what's correct is that the hijamah, cupping, and anything which stems from that, yani the things that they said في معناها, anything which is similar to it or stems from it, then this does not break the fast. It does not invalidate the fast. لا تفطر. والحديث المذكور منسوخ. Okay, so what do we do about the hadith which they mentioned? The hadith which they mentioned, although the hadith is authentic, it is mansukh. It has been abrogated. The hadith has been abrogated. What's come to abrogate it? It's been abrogated by another hadith which is authentic also, reported by Bukhari. The hadith of Ibn Abbas. The Sheikh doesn't mention it, but we're going to mention it. Is the hadith of Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, which is reported by Bukhari, as we mentioned. In the hadith, the Prophet sallallahu, or Ibn Abbas says, احتجم النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وهو صائم. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam performed hijamah, he performed cupping while he was fasting. And this hadith, in some of the narrations, some of the wordings of this hadith, it mentions that this was during Hajjatul Wada', the farewell pilgrimage of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. As Al-Hafidh, he mentions in Fathul Bari, the explanation of Sahih al-Bukhari, it mentions in there in some of the versions that this hadith or this word where the Prophet he performed hijamah, it was actually during the farewell pilgrimage. And the farewell pilgrimage is something that took place towards the end of the Prophet's life. So for this reason, they said that this hadith abrogates the previous hukum, the previous ruling, where he said that aftar al-hajim al-mahjum, that occurred at an earlier time, and this occurred at a later time. So the ruling that took place at a later time abrogates the one that took place at the earlier time. And this was mentioned by Shafi'i, Ibn Abdul Barr and others. They mentioned that this hadith of Ibn Abbas, it abrogates the other hadith which says that the hajim and the mahjum, their fast is broken. Okay, let's continue reading. So we're saying that hijamah does not invalidate the fast because the hadith which they used as evidence is abrogated. وَهَذَا قَوْلُ الْجُمْهُورِ, and this, the fact that hijamah does not invalidate the fast, this is the opinion of most of the scholars. لكن تكره الحجامة للصائم لأنها تضعفه غالبا, but it is disliked. So it doesn't invalidate the fast, however it's disliked for the fasting person to perform hijamah while he's fasting, because it weakens him in most cases. It's going to weaken you. When you take out blood from your body, definitely going to weaken you. غالبا in most cases. And this is proven كما في حديث أنس رضي الله عنه. And this is proven by the hadith of Anas رضي الله عنه. لما سئل, when he was asked, أكنتم تكرهون الحجامة للصائم? This hadith is evidence for two matters. It's evidence to show that doing hijamah weakens a person, and it's also hadith to show that hijamah while fasting does not nullify the fast. Okay. The hadith of Anas, he was asked, أكنتم تكرهون الحجامة للصائم? Did you used to dislike hijamah for the fasting person? قال لا إلا من أجل الضعف. No, only for the case of it bringing about weakness. We only disliked it for this reason, that it causes weakness. وزاد شبابة حدثنا شعبة على عهد النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. It comes in the addition of Shababa. He says, Shu'bah narrated to us, على عهد النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. This addition, that Anas, he's referring to the time of the عهد النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. This was something that occurred at the time of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. They did not dislike hijamah except for the case of it bringing weakness, not that it invalidates the fast. هكذا رواه البخاري. This is how it was reported by al-Bukhari. So, al-hijamah, number 4, this is not something which invalidates the fast. Not hijamah, nor the things which stem from al-hijamah, which is al-fasd and blood donation and so on. However, a person, when there's difference of opinion between the scholars, the safest option is to avoid the khilaf, to avoid the differing completely and stay away and take the safe side, which is to, if you have to cup after you've broken your fast. طيب, بارك الله فيكم. سبحانك اللهم بحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.